I'm going a bit of a different route now with this EasyGo electric cart. I'm not too thrilled with what's going on with the charging of these batteries, and I'm sure if I went through and pulled all these batteries out, cleaned them, cleaned the terminals, checked all the wiring, make sure everything's great, and maybe tried that charger to see if that's an issue. But the long story short, it's still an ancient charger. That charger over there is super heavy. I want to make this as easy as possible for my buddy up there, so I am converting this over to 36 volt single lithium ion battery with a charger. It's a whole kit, and it'll have a monitor we'll put out here, and I'm pulling this, redneck kind of twist lock somebody put in there, and putting a charge port, and which is basically a adapter that has a regular plug on it for like an extension cord, and then that will run off to the charger itself. So I'm going to pull all these batteries out, make note of all the wiring, clean it all up, double check down there, see if I need to fix any metal down there. I could possibly have to fix the metal that the batteries are sitting on over there, and then decide how I'm going to get everything to set up in here. And I won't know till I get that kit in. Now, it's a Chin's brand kit, bought it off Amazon. They're not bad. There's like maybe 730 bucks for the kit, and another 25 or so for that port adapter. But I think it's going to be a much better cart and much easier for him. And that battery weighs maybe 70 pounds. Each one of these batteries I think weighs 50 or 60 pounds, every single one of them. So not a big deal. And the other nice thing is too, since I do a bunch with some solar setups, I'm going to pull all these batteries, double check them again. We already tested the batteries, they all seem to be good, but I will use these in a solar setup somewhere. And what I'll end up doing is I'll just set these up in 3 banks of 2 batteries. So to make it 12 volt, I'll put these 2 in series, those 2 in series, those 2 in series, and then put each bank in parallel, which will give me basically a 12 volt system, but with the capacity of 3 banks of whatever these batteries are for the capacity. I'm not even positive of the amp hours on these, so they'll definitely be used. So I'm not sweating doing that. I just think it's a much better setup and less maintenance for my buddy at the lake. Anything I can do to make this easier on him, the better. And I just think this setup here would be headaches down the road for him, and I don't want him to have headaches. I want him to be able to just use and enjoy the cart. And it's an old cart, so let's make it at least relatively new again. I got the batteries out. Those things aren't light, I'll tell you that. So I'm kind of glad I did this, because yeah, she ain't pretty. Definitely gonna have to do some fixing up down here and figuring out where the new battery is going to fit in here. Might have to make a little bit of modification. Might even have to move this section off to the side a little bit, or I may be able to have that battery just go in here underneath all this stuff. That's possibly an option. The only thing I got to worry about is just linkage. So there are options, but any option is going to include metalwork, fixing and restructuring whatever's in here. Once I get the battery in there, then it's just a matter of making a little wood platform to put the the charger on, and screwing that to that. That pretty much, the rest of the space in here can be dead space, but I'll probably put something just as a cover, kind of, to keep any dirt and stuff down best we can. But definitely I'm glad I did it. It's not the best. A lot of rotten rust under here. As you can see, metal just pretty much shot. Rust, stuff flaking off. Looks like it's going to take a little bit of work to get this lithium battery to fit in there, but it won't be too bad. I'm actually not too worried about it. It'll take a little bit of fabricating, not a big deal. A little bit more fixing. What I'll do is I'll take a piece of this metal L bracket here and I will put it in here. I'll cut it against here so it gives it more support, and then I'll have a board I'm going to put across the top of this. The problem I ran into was that I made a mock-up of the battery. I used the dimensions that the chin has for that battery, and I gave an extra 1/2 inch on each. So I put it as 21 by 11 by 9, just for a little wiggle room, and it's actually a 1/2 inch or so shorter on each dimension. But there is not really a place that is going to fit inside here. You can't do much because of the rod here, or you can make a custom rod if you needed to with bends in it or whatever, but there is really no need to, because I took the bolts out where this was, you can see down here, and what I'm going to do is drill new holes, move that all the way against that bracket over there, and after I do that, I got to shore up that a little bit as well. When I've done that, this still moves perfectly without any binding your throttle, so that gives me a little bit more room back here. I need to remove this brace though and add a different brace in, because the battery itself has to tuck a little bit back here. So again, I don't need a lot, I just need a little bit extra. And what I'll end up doing is I will make the brace, put it over here. I'll show you the brace in a second, and I'll end up trimming this just a hair, trim that off just so it's easier to get the battery down and in. Gives me just a little bit more room. Now the brace, I always keep spare stuff. I don't remember what this was for. It was a center brace. Oh, you know what? It might have been for a pool. Actually, I think it was for a pool. And it was the brace to hold the metal sidewalls together on a above ground pool. That's what it was. Great piece of aluminum. And I've kept it around because I'm like, oh, I'll need it someday for something decent. And it's no good being around if it's not going to be used for a project. So all I'm going to do is, I already made a 90 in here, so then I'm going to cut it off right here. I'm going to double check the height again, cut it off there, and I will put spacers, and I'll show you what I mean a little better after I get this set up. I'll put a spacer so that this will bump back, but this will go underneath that bracket that's there, the old battery bracket. I'll drill it, mount a couple bolts in there. This here, I'll do the same thing. Now it still has that support, but it's bumped back a good 2 to 3 inches. That's going to help me get that battery in there. Definitely got some progress going here. I got that metal piece down there, that angle bracket installed this. So now I've got that bump out of another about 3 inches which is nice, and it is solid. That is not moving, not going anywhere. So, of anything, I may have to just do a little bit more over there of shoring that up. And I've got this I'm going to install on there for the battery to go on. And over here currently I am installing brackets because I am going to make a little shelf here for the charger to sit on. I just need to find my little small level and get that bracket set up there, and then this other bracket is going to go over here like so. Got to get the level for that as well, and then it'll again be just a nice little piece of plywood that goes across here, and all that. I still got to, like I said, fix the metal, and then I'll paint everything. I'll paint the plywood as well, get that stuff all painted up nice black, and that should cover the charger being permanently mounted inside, the battery. And you know, the nice thing about lithium is that in order for me to make this work, and I had seen a couple people on the forums asking, how do I get these lithium battery to fit into this EasyGo Marathon? And nobody was answering them, and now I can kind of see why. But like I was saying, the beautiful thing about lithium is that it doesn't have to be upright like a lead acid battery. You can mount that on its side, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, because it's only about 8.5 inches tall. So if I mount it on its side with the connectors over here, that will give me the nice distance here, and about 10.5 inches up, and about 20.5 inches long. I'll be able to mount that in there, and then I'll just have to make up some battery tie downs, and then do a lot of cleanup and testing. And I'm really hoping this is going to work. I mean, it should be fine. Everybody's done them before. The other thing I need to do is, one by one, I'm going to take a day, undo a connector, clean it all up, put it back, undo another one, clean it, put it back, for every single connection down here as well on the motor. I want every single connection nice, clean, and ready to go when it comes time to do this. I had to do a second time for that shelf over there. First time I did it was high, and I'm not sure if it was going to fit the charger on top of it, and so I just lowered that. As you can see, I'm putting some plywood down here. This is already in place, that's in place, and everything now is solid. I'm not worried about that. I left these two. I gotta pull them out and paint them, but I'm not installing those yet because those two are gonna have to come out. I'm gonna have to undo the bolts I have. Even though I moved this over a little bit, I'm gonna have to undo those, loosen it up with those boards out, slide that, lean it over the best I can in order to kind of kitty corner that battery in. It's going to be tight getting it in. Once it's in, good to go. Then I can put that stuff back and be all set, tie it down, do battery tie downs, and then start the wiring on it. The initial part getting it in there, because it's such a big battery, I mean, I probably would have been smarter to do 300 amp, and I have them, EG4 100 amp hour 12 volt batteries. I could have put them all in series and would have been the same capacity, easier to set up and put in. Could have used this here, 1, 2, 3. However, the BMS in those batteries, I believe, is only 100 amp, and everybody tells, on the advice I've been getting on the cart forums, when and what people are upgrading to when they're doing lithium, they're all saying make sure you get a 200 amp BMS. So, you know, I'd rather not have this be a problem down the road for my buddy. So I'm going to figure out how to make it happen with that big battery with the 200 amp BMS. I went through a couple of different attempts because I was hoping to get this battery in here facing up like normal, going this way, in which case I ended up putting a couple pieces of board to lift it up just above the gas linkage down there, the rod. Only way I'd be able to make that work is if I moved this back, you know, probably 2 inches, and I could have done that. I could have went ahead and put two new braces down there across the bottom, new mounting holes, moved that back, and extended the rod for the gas pedal. However, what I was waiting on was confirmation from Chin's Manufacturing to make sure it's fine to have this battery on its side. I know it's lithium, and lithium really doesn't matter as long as it's not upside down, you know, in general. But I wanted to know from the manufacturer, just to be safe. They said, yep. And I explained the whole application of which battery it was to them. It was going to be in a golf cart laying on its side. And they said it's no problem being on its side. So I went back to my original setup. Now, so the battery is in. I put, you can see some rubber down here in the back along that metal. So to protect the battery, I've got a piece of rubber down here to protect the battery too against that metal. I'll end up putting some rubber protection here. I don't expect this battery to move at all. It's heavy, and I will have 2 battery hold down straps made for this. I'll make something up. But now I've got the big battery installed, and I can actually easily get to these terminals. The biggest concern, and it apparently is an issue with these old EasyGos, the Marathon specifically, is having room in here to put a big battery. Not easy. I could have easily done the 300 amp hour ones. I even thought about doing that after seeing this mess, but I got it all to work, and I'm very happy with that. So now I've already cleaned all the terminals, every single terminal, got them everything labeled where they got to go back, and I need to tidy all that back together, get the wiring done, clean up and fix any of the crap wiring that's here. And in the ends, probably replace some of the terminal ends. And then once we get that done, hopefully that will fix that issue. I won't have any more issues with that, with the cart not wanting to go up hills. So, and if not, then we got to track down what the other issue is. Now that I've got everything pretty much squared away as to where it's going to go, and that's the charger there. I had it all sitting in here on top of this a minute ago. This under the charger was plywood before. Basically, when I was trying to get everything set up to figure out where I'm putting things and trying to make things fit. So I just use this as a template and then set it up here, cut out the metal. Now it has a metal shelf for the charger to sit on. It's much better putting that charger on metal than having it sit on wood. So now all I have to do is take this piece of metal back out, now that I set it back in here to make sure everything's good, clean it up some, get it all, you know, the rust off it, and paint it, and then mount that back in. And then I'm pretty close to getting this thing with the charger mounted in there. And then I'm going to just connect it to the battery, just charge the battery directly without anything else all hooked up. I want to make sure this battery is fully topped off and ready to go before I actually start doing anything else. Rain's coming down pretty good, so you can hear it downside of a metal building. So, but newest update. Right now, I've got just the charger connected. I haven't connected anything else. I want this battery fully charged before I do anything. And you can see it's got the little red indicator down there flashing. The upside down, there you go. And then when it gets, I think, over 90%, it'll flash green, and then it'll go solid green after it's hit 100%. I want to do a first full charge on this before I do anything. So that's mounted. I have the metal base plate now there for the shelf instead of the wood. Everything is all in place. I'll have to tidy that up and tie strap up the wires later on. Charging now off of the port I put in there, and just a good, decent size regular extension cord, and that's what I'm going to recommend he gets up there at the lake. Just get a good extension cord that he can plug into. But I mean, so far it's promising. We're just going to keep plugging and see what happens. I don't know how many times I got to change this freaking setup. But so I got a email originally from Chin's Battery customer service saying it's fine on the side, it's all good. Yeah, then I got an email from Chin's engineering department. No, you don't want the battery on its side. So I'm gonna go with their engineering department there and say that that's the person you want to listen to. So I pulled that battery out, as you can tell, and now I'm going through the other option I was talking about before. I have already extended out the gas pedal rod, as you can see. So I got that extended out, and down here now you can see that this is going to be back here. I just need to get 2 pieces of flat stock, go underneath there, mount the flat stock onto these brackets, and then drill holes where I'm going to mount this, and I'm going to get it back as close as I can back here. Now, because I need 11 inches, 10 and a half, but they say, but basically I'd like to have 11 inches of clearance, because on this battery here, if we go 11 inches from here, let's say that's 11 inches, that's going to give me probably a good 1/4 inch on each side clearance. So I want to use 11 inches as a guide, and I need to stay away from these screws because the height of the battery is going to come up here. So that wiring is all going to be kind of pushed to the side a little bit. It'll all fit in decent, but I should have just enough to get that 11 inches in, because what happens too, and this is pushed forward a little bit right now just because it's hanging in by a bungee cord, but if you watch that mechanism here, that comes forward a little bit before it goes down. So I got to keep an eye on this, but I think I'm going to be good. So now it's just a matter of putting some flat stock there, mounting that unit back up correctly, getting the, I think I already had some, but I might need a hair taller. I probably use a piece of 3/4 inch plywood to have the battery sit up on, so it clears this the rod. I need that clearance underneath it too. And then once that's done, then I can make battery tie downs, get it all in there nice and solid. I'd be much more comfortable anyway if this thing was actually sitting straight up the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to work on that and see if I can get that squared away. I'll show you real quick after I finish up the brackets underneath. Got the throttle set up here, the the rod for the gas pedal. That's the full extension. You can see I did a quick weld on those two nuts there. The top one is where I can do all the adjustments, and I have another nut there so I can actually lock that in place. The bottom one was just to extend it out, and even though those are tight, I wanted to have just a little bit of weld on that just to sturdy that up. I got the I used some angle iron, so I got these brackets in place now down below. All I need to do is hook up that rod to the throttle linkage, put this back in place, set it back where it's going to go, and then take a marker and mark out where the holes are going to be drilled. Take those brackets back off, drill new holes, clean up the metal, paint those, get them all ready to put back on, and then I can start putting stuff back on. I'll put that on. I'll put the little wood floor plate back on here, and I have 3/4 inch, they're over there. I have 3/4 inch plywood blocks that are going to go down here, one on each side, and that's going to raise that battery up just enough to make sure we have clearance on that gas pedal rod from under the battery, and it'll give a little bit of air underneath that battery. It help with the airflow coming in the battery. So I'm going to keep plugging with that. That should finally give me the clearance, because look at this, is just a big ass battery. I mean, it's huge, but that'll finally give me the clearance to put that battery in across this way, and then I can start working on wiring. Well, she fits. Actually fits pretty good. I did have to go up a little bit higher. I think I got like 1.25 inches of board of plywood underneath that to make sure I had enough clearance. I had just enough with 1 inch plywood, but I wanted to go a little higher, so I went with another 1/4 inch on top of that. And now a ton of clearance. You can see down here, I got plenty of clearance here, plenty of clearance in the front. I just got to hook those wires back up. I need to make a battery tie down for this side and one for that side. And if you see, we've got a lot of clearance under the seat, so I don't worry about that. And even though the bottom of the seat's wood, so I wouldn't have to worry about if the battery terminals were going to touch anything, but they won't touch anything. They are short, and we got a ton of clearance under that seat. So I am actually very, very happy with this so far. All I got to do after this is clean up the wiring. I'm going to start that now. The previous owner had wires that ran to the front go through that hole there that the rod went through for the gas pedal. That's kind of idiotic. That is, and I'm not sure who did it. My guess is probably someone long before him, because I don't want wires rubbing on that pedal every time you're using it. So I already pulled those out. I'm going to reroute those underneath, and more than likely I'm going to have to reroute some wires anyway for the battery monitor, because I need to, I don't say I need, but I want to set up this battery meter and monitor over here, probably just under the dash somewhere. I'll make a mount, either that or I hate to cut the dash, but I can cut the dash too and mount it directly into the dash. That's an option, but preferably I'd like to have it just easy access to put it on and off, just in case I ever have to replace one. But a lot of second guessing, a lot of doing things 2 and 3 times to get that big ass battery to fit in there. Like I said before, the big problem with these is those braces and where they put that center cluster. but should work out good. Getting a bunch of the wiring straightened out now. Whoever, one, either built this cart, or two, whoever owned this cart at one point apparently only had red wire for regular wire, and the bigger stuff was only black. Literally everything is black. All this stuff, even the one that goes to the battery cables, the terminals, everything was red. All the grounds, all the lives. So I've cleaned that up the best I can now, as far as I'm out of the bigger black, so I used the brown. I'm good with that, as long as it's not red. So got that pretty much squared away. Extended out the wires that are going to go from the battery monitor, and I got to figure out a way to mount that. But that'll go out under the cart. I also fixed all the ends and removed that wiring that went through the hole there with the gas pedal. I'm running this up. I'm not doing it yet because I'm going to run the wires that extend that monitor out back to the battery and the shunt. I'm waiting on 2 bus bars. I'm going to mount the positive and negative bus bars here, and then the shunt, I got to figure out how to mount that so I can have that shunt properly give the signals up to that monitor. But so the only thing that really is going to be connecting to this battery, one terminal going to the bus bar. Well, technically it'll go to the shunt to the bus bar for the negative, and then one going from here to the positive bus bar, and everything else is going to connect to the bus bars. That's going to clean up that nicely. I got to do something with the cabling and stuff here for the charger. Still got to make battery hold downs, but now everything is I'm feeling more comfortable about the wiring, about the setup, and like I said, I just hope all these controllers are good, and I hope that motor itself is good and isn't tired. And I hope it was just because all these wiring, the batteries, they were so corroded. When I first got it, the batteries themselves too were low on water. And when we tested the batteries individually, we didn't do it under load, so that would have been the next thing. But all the batteries tested good, but on the low end. So I still wasn't all that comfortable with the whole battery thing and that old ancient charger. So we'll see. Cross my fingers. So I need to figure out how to mount this Chin's battery monitor, and I want to be able to have it on the dash there, but I don't want to cut the big hole in the dash. I'd rather be able to make it also so I can waterproof it the best possible way I can, and also to, if I have to replace it, it can be easily replaced. So I grabbed this case I have here. They're used for like server backup cartridges. You know, they're like little hard drives in a backup cartridge. And I have the extra cases here. So what I'm going to do is cut this out. This will be able to slide and pop into there. I will paint the whole thing black, and then I will, because it opens up from the bottom here, flips up, and I'll just screw this in with 4 little screws. I may even just use 2, we'll see, or 3, maybe 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom. And then when I get all this stuff in here and get the wires and everything fed through, I may end up using some silicone all around here just to seal it up. The sides and everything I think will be okay, and the opening is going to be on the bottom, so that if any moisture or water got in there, it should be able to find its way out. So that is the plan for now. Let's see how it turns out, see if it actually looks halfway decent. I mean, the cart is really square and boxy already, so I don't think having one more thing on there that's a little square and boxy is going to make too much of a difference. wired up the battery monitor. Isn't too bad. I'd already snaked the wires through when I did that mount up there, and now I just drilled a hole in the back of this real quick, in the back of that compartment, and attached basically to a snake wire coat hanger. Brought the wires up through, and then that's going to be plenty, so I'll leave it there as that. And now I'm going to bring these wires down, put them in the wire loom that's coming up through there, tape all that, sorry, not tape it, but tie strap the zip ties, all that nice and tidy back through, come back up through here, and then we'll be able to mount that to the bus bars. I gotta wait for new bus bars come in tomorrow. First ones I ordered, I didn't notice I clicked on 3/8. I need 5/16 inch on the bus bars for the connectors. All my connectors are for 5/16 and not 3/8. No big deal, you know. So they'll be here tomorrow, and then I will finish that up. But what I will get done today is that shunt, get this wired in, all that wiring straightened out, and then we'll work on getting prepared for when the new bus bars come in. Today I need to work on getting these bus bars installed. These just came in, and like your typical stuff you order from Amazon or wherever, stuff's not really all in it. There were screws just banging around, so I'll check it all out before I install it. However, what I really needed to do is install this shunt. And what I don't want, because the negative is coming from all the load on one side, and then the other one is going to the battery on this shunt, I do not want this thing grounding out on the metal mounting this, because it'll ground out the whole cart, the whole body. So I dug through a bunch of stuff I had, and I wanted to get some plastic mounts. So I found these, and these will actually work great because I can drill through, mount those in. It's decent size plastic. These shunts don't get super hot. They do get warm, all right? But so what I did was I took a little piece of this little galvanized steel I have. I will paint it after once I get going. But I just cut off a piece that I wanted, and I'm going to see if I can do this one hand. No, I'm gonna put you down for a second. So I am just going to take this, put this here, mount this here, like that, like so. I'm gonna mount the shunt across here actually, and these will actually come in just a hair. These will screw down through the metal outside this plastic here, and then that will mount into here, leaving us the ability to put our two ends on here. Our other wires for the battery monitor will be here. Now it's all plastic insulated all the way down here below when it mounts to the steel on the cart, and that should do it for that. It keeps it up, keeps their airflow around it, so it's not boxed in, so it doesn't get too hot, and it'll also keep it from grounding out that cart. So simple to do. Just come up with a quick idea, dig out some stuff you got lying around. This, like I said, I cut it while I was on the wire wheel and the grinder over there. I just rounded off the corner so it looks a little better, paint it black, and it'll all look nice. Doing some more work on Kermit here, and got the seats off, the seat backs, and because I wanted to do some fixing up on that and paint them, and took this panel off to make it easy to get the seat off, these things were in there pretty hard. Even when you pulled the bolts off, it was very tough to squeeze them out of there. And I want to get a little bit better access to see what it's going to look like with the motor. And hopefully I don't have to do anything with rebuilding that motor, the electric motor back here. So the other thing too is where the cooler goes. I put the mounts in here just to have them hand tight with the nuts and bolts, and just so I can get how far I would need for the bungee. Got the foam back here, so that'll prevent the cooler from moving around. Plus, once I paint it, it won't chew up the paint. So that's pretty much squared away. And got the seats. I had to fix the back of it, this one, because that part of the plastic here was all broke out, and I used my little plastic fixing tool there with the little metal staples. Got it all inside there really nice, so it's now structurally sound again. Put a little bit of epoxy over that to help it, and also to cover the little small spots where little bits of staples where you could feel them when you cut. And then did the first paint. I still need to do today. I will do just the other side of these metal posts, and that will pretty much fix all that up. That'll finish up that. So definitely making progress. I kind of wish I had taken, hindsight 2020, I kind of wish I took this panel off when I was doing that whole brace here, that bracket. That would have made it a lot easier. I was basically under there, coming from the other side, doing it all blind, and had to do it from the other side. But now you can kind of see a little better where I had gone through and made that bracket to come down when I was originally going to put it on its side there. Didn't work out, but if the battery could have been put on its side, it would have been kind of an ideal situation. If someone's going to do this type of cart and they decide, well, they want to buy a battery that can be put on its side, I think Battleborn and a couple others say you can mount them on the side. They could have done that as well and not had to deal with the extending out of this bracket for that center electrical stuff and extending out your rod for your gas pedal. Did a quick paint on here too. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier, but quick test paint with the Rust-Oleum textured, and it flattened out pretty nice, so I'm kind of happy with that. I'll end up giving it probably a second coat, but I'm really kind of happy with how that turned out to help clean this cart up a little bit. And that's the same stuff I'll use on the rest of this cart when I paint it. Again, gotta apologize for the heater, but I need heat in the garage, so the fan's blowing. So now this is all back together with the seats painted, the seat backs. So much better. Look how clean and nice that looks. Plastic's all fixed. The back's all in. This plate's back on. Good to know about that plate though. And this should be pretty good. So just going to keep plugging. I cleaned up this some in there as well a little bit. I need to prep it before paint, scrape a little bit more of that stuff off, do a little better job of cleaning, and I'll yank these off. But I don't know when I'm going to get to the painting. I'm trying to do this in between other jobs and other projects.